Call them now. Help by hiring.
Every year, the Armed Forces discharge 6,000 medics and Navy medical corpsmen. This year, with the reduced commitment to Vietnam, the number will be even higher. Most of the discharged men turn to jobs in which their service skills are wasted. But on the other hand, there is an acute shortage of doctors in many communities, especially outside the big cities. So a new program has been devised and in some places has been put into operation to put the supply together with the demand for the benefit of the public in general. Don Oliver reports.
Mark Patterson looks something like a young doctor might look. His bag looks like a doctor's bag, and it's filled with medical supplies. But Mark Patterson isn't a doctor. He probably never will be. But yet he spends most of his time helping to heal the sick and the injured in the small town of Tonasket, Washington. Tonasket serves a trading area of about 7,000 people, 20 miles south of the Canadian border. There are 2 doctors here, both of them close to 60 years old. A house call in this area may involve driving 80 miles. The doctors are overworked. And for 5 years, they've tried without success to find another doctor to practice here. It's a sad fact, but most young doctors don't want to practice in a rural environment. They'd rather be in the city, where there are more conveniences and where the workday is not quite as long. So something has to be done to help the overworked doctors who remain in the little towns like Tonasket. And Mark Patterson, people like him, may provide the solution to the problem. Dr. Vernon Kinsey is a general practitioner, one of Tonasket's 2 doctors. He's been here 24 years.
It got to be a little hectic at times because with night calls and sometimes we get quite busy around here and 50, 60 hours a week sometimes, and with no chance to get away too often. But now Dr. Kinsey can get away a little more often because he's got some help. 26-year-old Mark Patterson. He never had any formal medical training, but for 8 years, Mark was a medical corpsman in the U.S. Navy. Part of that time was spent treating wounded in Vietnam. And now, because of a new program in the state of Washington, Mark is able to put the medical knowledge that he learned in the military to some use in civilian life as a kind of a doctor's assistant. At the same time, he is easing the workload for the country physician. Mark is one of 14 former military medics who are working with rural doctors in the state under the sponsorship of a unique organization. It's called MEDEX, and it has headquarters in Seattle. MEDEX was formed by doctors who believe that there is a need for former military corpsmen in civilian medicine.
We are taking on a kind of paradoxical situation that we found, and that is that at a time when there are shortages across the board in the health manpower field, that there's also a supply of readily available, highly trained manpower that can be utilized. And this is the former military corpsman. This man exists, and he exists in literally the thousands. I can't even estimate how many thousands there probably are. And yet, there is no place in the civilian framework of medicine where this man right now, prior to MEDEX at least, can fit readily. Certainly a number of men do come back. They have training as technicians of one sort or the other. Physicians can at times and do hire them on, but in no organized, systematic kind of fashion. This is what MEDEX is set up to do. This is what MEDEX is about. Taking this manpower pool and applying it where the greatest need is. In the case here in Washington State, in predominantly the rural areas of the state.
15 ex-corpsmen were selected. They were given 3 months preparation at the University of Washington Medical School. Then last September, they were sent out to spend a trial year with doctors in need of some assistance. It is a learning situation in which the doctor finds out how much the MEDEX knows and how much help he can be, while the MEDEX determines if he likes this kind of life and can do the job expected of him. This year, the MEDEX is paid by a federal grant. But next year, if the relationship works out, he'll go on the doctor's payroll at a guaranteed $8,000 to $12,000 a year. So far, 1 MEDEX has dropped out of the program, but in Tonasket, the arrangement is working.
What has it meant to you to have Mark here? It's meant a great deal. It's relieved me of a lot of the repetitious things that Mark can do as well as I can, and better in some areas. He can do histories and physicals and screening techniques that really relieved me a great deal, and has made more time available for me to see the more complicated problems of medicine.
I enjoy it very much. My preceptor happens to be, I feel, an excellent teacher and has volunteered information any time that I ask him, and has made other things available to me. There are lots of things that I do here in the office. I screen patients initially for him so that he doesn't have to take a lot of time with them. I do other little things for him, like drawing blood and giving allergy shots. In the hospital, I do histories and physicals on the male patients. I put down progress notes occasionally. I do some chart work for him that saves him some time. And I make rounds routinely in the nursing home. And although I may not do anything for the patients, I just go around and talk to them, and it's something they need, and something he hasn't always had time for.
Pretty good. Well, we'll stop around and see you next week again, okay? You behave yourself in the meantime, all right?
I'm doing this.
Huh? Okay, great. We'll see you.
In general, people have been, most agreeable to see me in most instances.
Do they question you about your status, or are they curious?
Sometimes they do, and I explain to them, although usually they know before they get into my office.
How do you know just how far you can go in treating a patient?
I go as far as I feel comfortable, and when I get to an area that I don't know, then I just turn to Dr. Kinsey, and I always have him take over then. If it's something I don't know right from the start, or something I'm not familiar with at all, then I go to him and he handles the problem.
There is a saying in the program that the doctor knows why something should be done, and the MEDEX knows how to do it. Here in Tonasket, the patients of Dr. Kinsey seem to understand and accept the role of the MEDEX. Is he trusted by the people as a doctor would be?
For those jobs that he does, I'm sure he is. I think everyone in this community understands that he's not a bona fide MD, but for giving shots and setting bones and things like that, they have the utmost confidence in him.
It gives the young ones a chance and gives the old doctors a rest. We need more doctors.
People have welcomed him with open arms, not because he is a doctor. He doesn't try to be a doctor, but he's taking the burden off a 24-hour call of one of our physicians. And we all like Dr. Kinsey, the physician he works with. We like our other doctors. I tell you, we'd like 2 more medics. You got 2 more?
MEDEX has the support of the Washington Medical Association, but there are doctors who say the greatest reluctance to the program will come not from patients, but from some other physicians.
I think when you go through medical school and the day comes that you get your MD, I think you're pretty jealous of that degree, and I think we develop the feeling that only a doctor can meet the medical needs of the patient. Then, when the program was described to me, I realized that the service for many years had been having lesser trained people less than doctors, meeting medical needs and meeting them successfully. After I saw the program in operation, I believe that it's going to work in civilian life as well.
What kind of a legal status do you think should be given to the MEDEX?
Of course, he has no legal status today, and this will be one of the big questions that will be faced will have to be faced in the next few months. I am a member of the Washington State Board of Trustees, and it is a matter that is receiving some attention there. As I see it myself, he can only be licensed to act under the direct supervision of the doctor. I think that to specify what specific things he might do or might not do would be foolish, because what he does will be almost entirely determined by the setting he is in.
The MEDEX office in Seattle has received and answered nearly 2,000 letters from military corpsmen who are interested in the program. It has gotten an equal number from doctors and medical organizations wanting more information. The officials stress that the program is still experimental, but there are plans to expand MEDEX to at least 2 more western states.
Apparently, the people here in rural Washington are accepting the MEDEX program. It seems to be working here, and it could work in other parts of the country. But first, a lot of laws will have to be changed. Right now, it is impossible in most states for a doctor to designate a man as his assistant. The laws just won't allow it. And at some point, some standards are going to have to be set to determine just what a MEDEX can do and to make sure that the man who is assisting the doctor is qualified. Don Oliver, NBC News in Okanogan County, Washington.